And welcome to PopFlash. I'm Jack Westerman, joined by Jason Moses O'Toole, and this is everything you need to know about Counter-Strike this week. Our first story this week is the North American qualifier for ESL 1 Cologne, which took place over the weekend, and ESL 1 Cologne, of course, which takes place at the end of August. So, Jason, straight off the bat, let's take a look at the groups for the qualifier. This time around, so again, it's a qualifier, so no prize money, just 2 spots up for grabs and 8 teams battling it out for those 2 spots. Over in Group A, we'll see that Cloud9, as you probably would expect, qualified from that group a score of 2-0. Team Liquid joined them out of the group 2-1, and over in Group B, Counterlogic Gaming and Elevate made it out over there. So we're going to come back and talk about all 4 of those teams a little bit later, but before we do, Moses, I want to pick your brains about maximum effort. First of all, they're down at the bottom of Group B. They've gone 0 for 2. This is the team that Hiko and Semphis formed after they kind of fell out of Cloud9 respectively. And it's fair to say they bombed out of this tournament, right? They lost 16-13 to Elevate, and 16-13 in their first match, and then they lost to Elevate 16-3. Hiko hinted that they were going to change their roster potentially, or the future was generally uncertain. Is the best thing at this point just to walk away from this team?
Yeah, I mean that team is pretty much dead. To be completely honest with you, they're not going to keep playing with that lineup. And it's kind of funny they made that name Maximum Effort, and you could tell that coming into that event they weren't putting very much effort into it whatsoever. So I don't think they definitely didn't expect to qualify, but I think losing to Elevate to get knocked out 16-3, like that's a scoreline that probably Hiko and Semphis haven't experienced against North American teams ever. So that team's pretty much dead, but I know Hiko's going to move forward and try and build another solid team. He's still very, very motivated to compete.
Okay, well, if we go back to the teams that qualified from the groups now, we'll take a look at the bracket. So again, Cloud9, Elevate, CLG and Liquid have gone through, and perhaps no surprise, Cloud9 and Counterlogic Gaming qualified in the end. They were the 2 teams that made it through. Which team... Well, first of all, they both made light work of this bracket, right? Cloud9 beat Elevate 2-0, CLG beat Liquid 2-0, absolute sweeps. Which team impressed you most of these 2?
CLG, and that's not to say, because Cloud9's the better team, and Cloud9, when you watch them play, looks like the better team. You just know they are. But I mean, that being said, Cloud9 was widely expected to qualify from this. I mean, they weren't expected to have any trouble, and they really didn't. So it was CLG that we were all kind of, there was that toss-up. Which team with, like, Tempo Storm's performance at SEVO the other weekend, Team Liquid and them have been vying for that 2nd spot in North America for some time, and it really impressed me, CLG, how they played at this event, because they were dominant in their own right. Had a couple tough matches, but they looked really, really good, and I think a lot of that has to do, the most of it probably has to do with Cutler as an in-game leader, not only changing how they play on their terrorist sides, that looks much more organized and better calling, but he performed really well individually, and so did Tarek. I mean, Tarek he's been pretty consistent against other North American teams for a few months now. The big thing is, are they going to be able to have that same success against the Europeans?
Okay, well, if we have a quick look at the statistics for the ESL Cologne qualifier, it kind of looks like a statistic for Cloud9 and CLG, given that they're the only players you can see in here. Yeah. But this was for the whole tournament. It just so happens that Cloud9 and CLG were statistically the best, right? In fact, Cloud9 have pretty much swept this whole thing. Given that Cloud9, yes, they were expected to qualify, they've been playing extremely well recently, but you also like CLG as well. What's the expectation for both of these teams going into Cologne, into the major, against such a stacked field?
For Cloud9, for me, top 4 is like the minimum they can get. I think a lot of people, I mean, they definitely even have the possibility of getting into the finals and even potentially winning it. I think a lot of it's going to come down to, since both of these teams qualified, Cloud9's going to get put into a tough group. They're going to get put into a group with teams that they probably wish they wouldn't be playing until the bracket stage. So that'll be the tough part for them, is even getting out of the group, and they've mentioned that in a couple interviews. CLG, I think, for them to get out of group stage, that would be a victory of itself, because they're making progress, and to have that top 8 spot and a direct invite to the next major, that'd be huge for them. But I don't expect them to be able to beat any European teams in a best of 3, so just getting out of the group stage for me would make me happy for them.
Okay, just to pull out one point you said there, you can see Cloud9 potentially winning this whole thing.
I mean, I'm not going to give them, favorable odds to do it, but
Yeah.
I mean, look at the teams that they've been able to beat. Navi, Fnatic, they struggled against TSM, but they have that thing where they lose to a team and then they beat them the next time around. So maybe that'll help them against TSM. The big thing is if they do get out of groups, which portion of the bracket are they going to meet Virtus Pro in, or are they at all? Because if they get out of if they have to meet Virtus Pro in the quarterfinals, their tournament might just end right there.
Okay, well, last question on ESL Cologne before we move on to our next topic, and it is the team list. We've now finalised all 16 teams that are going to be in Cologne at the end of August, and as I just said, this is a really stacked field.
Yeah, it's a beautiful field, actually. Looks great.
Is this one of the strongest fields we've ever seen in a major so far?
Probably. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I can only think of two teams that I'd want to potentially switch out, and that would be eBettle and Immunity. That's not to say they don't deserve to be there, but those are like the two teams that you could probably think of another team that would improve, like maybe Dignitas getting in there, Hellraisers, if they can, if they perform like they did at Acer, maybe them. But I mean, I'm not going to complain about it because eBettle, I mean, they earned that the hard way, beating Titan in the finals, and so. I mean, those are the only two teams you can really look at, but I mean, I honestly, I don't even mind that they're in it. I'm just so excited for this event. The team list is insane. It's ridiculous.
For our second topic this week, we're going to have a look at the ESL Global Team Rankings, which were announced earlier in the week. So, Jason, this was a little bit of an unusual story. Kind of came out of nowhere, the fact that ESL were going to start ranking teams. And there was a lot of controversy kind of around the system they were using and the fact that certain teams weren't in the position that people maybe felt they should have been, right? So straight off the bat, as we take a look at the top 10 teams here, we'll see Fnatic, Virtus Pro, Na'Vi, all the standard guys in here. Also the likes of Cantalogic Gaming down there at number 9, which I'll come back to. Yeah. But straight off the bat, how do you feel about this system overall? There's a lot of confusion about how teams keep points as they change organisation. People saying that this was designed for teams that play a lot of tournaments, maybe not the best method. How do you feel about this?
I mean, I think it's an interesting idea. I think it obviously needs some tweaking to it. I would like to see. One of my bigger issues with it is that there's results from all the way back towards last year, and with the amount of events that we have in Counter-Strike, I mean, we should really be cutting this off somewhere like 3-4 months in the past, because there's just so many events that you can't, you might get, like, that's the thing, like TSM's obviously a better team than Ninjas and Pajamas right now. We haven't even seen the new Envious lineup play, so I understand what they're trying to do with the player points that'll transfer to help teams out, but I think that's kind of a dangerous game to be playing, to be honest with you. But I think shortening the length that it goes back would be very helpful.
Is a ranking system like this, and I guess this doesn't just apply to Counter-Strike, right? This could be any sport. Can you rank teams, using an algorithm just based on maths, or does it have to have that human wisdom, I guess? Kind of like Thorin's ranking, right? Is that preferable to this system almost?
I mean, well, it's like the NCAA does it for college football, and that's been under fire for years now, where they have that automated system that does it. So, I mean, you can. I don't. Here's the thing. Here's my couple issues about it. Is one, I like the idea, and having a second ranking that's purely computer-based, I don't mind having that. My biggest problem is that's something that to introduce it and have the first impact it's going to have on seedings be a major 250,000, not a major, but a big 250, like that's something that they can introduce for like Pro League Season 1 and let it work the kinks out through the season before they start using it to dictate seedings and invites to events. So I thought that would have been a better option to go. And also what scares me about it is down the line, and this might just be an unintended consequence, they're trying to prevent this by giving points to teams and points to individual players that will transfer to the new teams they bring. But what happens if you get to a point where teams like 4 guys are like, all right, we want to pick so and so up, like we think he would fit our team very, very well, he'd be a really good player, and the org is like, well, he doesn't bring enough points to the table, so if we bring him on, we're going to drop down, we're going to lose like 600 points or whatever it might be, and that will bring us out of the top 5, and we might not get invited to this event. So you don't want to have decisions for teams being made based off how many points they bring to the table in a ranking system that's going to determine seedings and invites.
Last but not least this week, I've got some quick-fire topics for you, Moses. So, quick as you can, give me your thoughts on the following news stories from the week. First of all, Hellraisers beat Mouse Sports 4-3 in the final of the Acer Predator Masters.
I didn't get it. I haven't been able to watch any of those matches quite yet. I do want to go back and watch that, but I had the qualifiers and then a travel day, so I haven't been able to actually see it. But a best of 7, that's a long, long time to be playing, especially to go all 6 maps, because I think Mouse Sports had a 1-0 lead from the upper bracket, but that's a long finals.
The $85,000. Let me start that again. The $85,000 IEM Gamescom tournament takes place this week with a particularly unique format of play.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty interested to see how that works out. It's pretty interesting. I don't mind that there's this kind of this more playful format. There's going to be like 3 IAM stops, and I know the other 2 are going to be more standard. But I don't mind if every season of IAM there's one that's just kind of this crazy fun style that we don't normally see. I joked with NBK on Twitter that I was hoping, because each team gets 4 losses and then you lose a life every time you lose a match. I was joking like Mario Kart. I want them to tie balloons to his monitor and pop one after every time that team loses. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
I would very much be in favour of that as well. SK Gaming won the ESEA European Premier Division to qualify for Pro League Season 2.
Cool, showing improvement. I like it. Get another team in there. I mean, there was a lot of teams there at the bottom, so it's good to see that this relegation system is getting some new blood into the Pro League. And that's it for this week. I'm Jason Moses O'Toole, joined by Jack Westerman.
And we'll be back next Wednesday with another episode of PopFlash.